Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Mission Matters Business Podcast, your source for all things business. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today I have Alison Henderson on the line, and she's founder and CEO over at Moving Image Consulting. Alison, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks so much for having me on.
So excited to get into today's topic. So we're going to talk about virtual body language to help us with Zoom fatigue and communication. So that's a big topic. I mean, a lot of people on Zoom, a lot of people that are finally taking some of their businesses online, and this is a big deal. So excited to get into this with you. But before we do, I want to talk a little bit more about what you're doing over at Moving Image Consulting. Tell us a little bit more about your business, please.
Great. I work with businesses to create communication ease for them. And I take it from the nonverbal communication side of things. So I teach how to both send better nonverbal signals yourself and also how to read the signals that you're taking in from other people. When there is 70% or more of our nonverbal communication is coming at us and we're not taking advantage of that oftentimes because we kind of put our blinders on or we're thinking about what we're going to say next. And so I call this listening with your eyes, and it's very much like active listening on steroids because not only are you really listening to what others have to say, but you're taking in the body language you see and you're using it to your advantage.
That's awesome. And just at the end of this, I'm going to give you an opportunity to leave your website and or contact information so that businesses can connect with you, just so that the right people do follow up. What are the right types of businesses and or clients that you like working with?
My favorite clients are those in the financial industry, like auditors and accountants, or engineers, honestly, because they usually aren't given credit for being very good communicators. And so much of what I do helps them take really complicated information and make it something that other people can understand, because you have to make sure that your verbal words and your body language are in sync and that they're matching. And when people try to simplify information, sometimes that's not happening anymore because they take what they would normally say to somebody, which might be really complicated language that they know from their industry. And so they communicate really well with their own kind or their own folks. But when they have to go to their clients or when they have to go to someone that isn't familiar with their industry, sometimes they struggle with being understood. And so we really take that information and simplify it both from that body language and the verbal side. So it's super fun stuff, but usually people don't necessarily think about, body language could actually really help me communicate better.
That's awesome. Let's switch up a bit. I do want to get into today's topic, so virtual body language to help us with Zoom fatigue and communication. Where do you want to start with this one?
Well, I think I would like to start at the beginning, which is a little bit of why it's so taxing for us or why we find these virtual meetings to be a strain on us both mentally and honestly physically as well. Our brain is dealing with two things simultaneously because we're kind of telling our brain, we're in a meeting, we're all together in this, but we're also saying, but I know I'm not all together in the same place with you because everybody's backgrounds are different and I'm looking at a box. I'm not looking at a person. I'm looking at a screen. And our brain is kind of constantly doing overtime because on the one hand, we're saying, it's fine, it's okay, but our primitive brain, our reptilian brain that they call it, is very much in the survival mode, and it kind of starts to panic a little bit. Like this isn't normal. This isn't real. And so we're kind of constantly calming ourselves down, even while having this communication with another person virtually, which we've been doing for years. It's just, I think finally psychologists and neuroscientists and things are really looking at it from this, why is it more strenuous than just sitting in a conference room talking? Shouldn't it be the same? Shouldn't it be easier because we're relaxed and we're in our own homes oftentimes, or we're in our own office and we don't have to be with everybody else? But it actually is tougher because we don't get the same body language signals. We're not getting the same energy signals because of the screen.
Oh, that makes total sense. So what does somebody do to kind of get past this? Because obviously, especially I think Twitter, there's some other companies that are letting people work from home indefinitely. So this is a new skill set people have to learn. And what this reminds me of, by the way, is when I first started broadcasting. When I first started, I'm like, man, it's like the end of the day, I would like curl up in a ball and I'd be so exhausted. I'm like, why is this exhausting? I used to, like, when I was a kid, work construction or other things and do these like really hard manual like works when I was really young, and I was like, man, I don't even remember being that tired then as I am right now, and all I've been doing is talking on a mic all day.
Well, it's the energy piece. Just like we have to give more energy. I'm talking to you in a more animated way than I might if I'm face-to-face with someone, just as you are with me. So when you're on these Zoom calls or Skype or whatever you use, Microsoft Teams, you actually have to give a little bit more energy to look like you, because the screen is taking your 3D person and flattening it into 2D. So if you see somebody that you think isn't very much engaged, or you think is bored or doesn't have any energy, it may just be that their natural looks even flatter through the screen. So again, you start to worry that darn old-fashioned brain of ours starts to think, oh, I've lost my potential client. They're not interested. Or if you're interviewing, oh, my interviewer doesn't care because I'm not getting anything back from them. So we have to teach everybody to give a little bit more energy. Then you'll look like you when they meet you in real life, and it won't be like, wow, you do have energy, or I really do like you. You're so much better in person than you were on the screen, right? You don't want that reaction. You don't want to have people think wow, you are a real drip online, but in person, you're great. So we kind of have to remember that. In fact, I have a little Post-it note sometimes that I put up where I tell my clients to put them up around their computer screen to kind of remind them, like a little smiley face, make sure you're smiling, a little lightning bolts to remind them to keep their energy up. Those sorts of things, because that's going to help you communicate more through the screen. You actually have to communicate more. And I even tell people to warm up. And they're like, warm up? And I said, yes, you actually need to warm up your face, like scrunch it up into a really tight ball and then open it up really wide and rub your cheeks a little bit to open your facial muscles so that you're giving more facial expressions. And also you have to warm up your shoulders, because usually we only see from the chest up. So when you only have the bust showing, most people don't communicate a whole lot with their shoulders. That's not what you think of as the most communicative part of the body, your shoulders and neck. And suddenly that's all we have to communicate with, because we're not seeing the gestures, or we're not seeing, or we don't know how to interpret the facial expressions that we're seeing through the screen. And so we have to actually think about, I do a lot of training people in their shoulders, actually, like what shoulder signals can you send to another person to be persuasive, or what messages can your shoulders be telling somebody, because that's all they're really seeing from you, unless you scooch back from the screen, which I like to tell people, scoot as far back as you can so they can see more body language. The more they can see of you, the more they're going to trust you. We tend not to trust what we can't see, which is why we shake hands, right? We show people, I don't have a weapon. I am not here to hurt you. So we don't necessarily see that through Zoom. So it might take you a little bit longer to earn somebody's trust, because they're not seeing all of the body language that you're giving off, in your little box.
Man, this is so good. All these tips are amazing. I love it. And I think they're not, and just to be clear, this is a skill. This isn't intuitive. Like, it's not, because we weren't raised talking on screens like this. So, or I should say most of us weren't. Who knows? I'm not going to say everybody wasn't, but probably age group here right now, maybe the next generation, maybe they would be raised talking on screens. But for us, we're kind of in that in-between thing, like FaceTime, or a lot of these things were invented in all of our lifetimes, depending, I think Skype was maybe 2002 or something like that. So, I mean, that being said, most of us haven't been talking on screens our whole life. So that being, it is a learned movement. That being said, so Alison, if somebody is listening to this and they want more information on moving image consulting, what's the best way for them to reach out and to connect with you and your team?
Well, the first place I would send them, of course, is to the website, which is movingimageconsulting.com. Not hard, easy to find. And I also do a lot of work on LinkedIn, and so you can find me just at my name. I haven't gone to the fancy extra page for the business thing. So if you just look up Alison Henderson, you'll find me in LinkedIn and reach out to connect, because I post a lot of great stuff there. And I also have a YouTube channel that's called Moving Image. If you look up Moving Image, you'll find the YouTube channel, and I post a lot of tips on there all the time for lots of different things, usually business oriented, but yeah, a lot of body language tips are there for the taking as well.
Fantastic. Well, Alison, really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing more tips for the audience and for myself on how to help with fatigue, with Zoom fatigue and communication. So that's awesome. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave me a review in the Apple iTunes Store. And if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, Mission Matters Business, definitely give us a subscribe there, but also leave us some comments in the video. Love to know what kind of projects and things that you're working on. And Alison, thanks again for coming on the show.
Oh, thanks so much. This was fun.